So there's a new professional camera app from Apple for your iPhone, and it's called Final Cut Camera. Here's the icon, that's what it looks like. And in this video, I'll be telling you everything you need to know about this new camera app. So first of all, it's a standalone app. It's not connected to the other default camera app. This is a standalone application, and you can get it for free on the Apple App Store. So just go to the App Store and then search for Final Cut Camera. Just search for that, and in the results you should see the app right there, and it's from Apple. Okay, so it's free to install, and you can install it on any iPhone running at least iOS 17.4. okay, anyway, so once you launch it for the first time, you're gonna have to give some permissions, like permission to access your camera, permission for your microphone, and also location permission. And then once you give all those permissions, this is where you're going to land. Okay, so this is the icon to switch between the front and the back camera on this new app. So let me just switch to the back camera so I can be able to explain better all the features. So let's start from the top. Okay, now this feature is called the Connect to Live MultiCam feature, and this one allows you to connect to other devices, and this is a bit complex, so I'm gonna create a whole separate video for this particular feature, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll try and link it down below for you guys to see. Anyway, so at the top here you have these quick settings. Okay, so these are quick settings of changing the codec. So for instance, you can change from HEVC to Apple ProRes. You can change HDR to standard SDR. You can change your resolution from 4K to 1080, 720p, whatever you want really. And then also you can change the frame rate between 24, 25, 30, which is the default, and 60 frames per second. So you can do that quickly from the top here, although you can also get that inside the settings. Now before we go to settings, let me just quickly show you what's on the screen here. So as you can see right here, it shows hours and minutes, basically showing the time for which you can record. So with the current settings I have, I can record for a maximum of 2 hours and 20 minutes. And this will change depending on the resolution you've set. For instance, if I change the frame rate from 30 FPS to 60 FPS, you should see that changes to 1 hour and 10 minutes. So this is basically an indication of how much space you have in terms of hours and minutes of video footage that you can actually record given the current settings. And then on this other side here, you have this sound monitor. So this is basically to monitor your microphone levels. So if you're too loud, you can see that you're actually too loud because it's gonna go all the way up. It's basically monitoring your microphone level. Now let's go to the bottom here. Here we have the lenses. This particular iPhone is the iPhone 15 Pro, and you can see I have 3 lenses there. Okay, so that means, let me just go back. That means I can switch between the 3 different lenses. And when you switch and pick a certain lens, the camera app will not automatically change to a different lens during the recording. Unlike the default camera app that changes depending on your level of zoom and how close you are to a subject, this one will not change. Okay, whatever you choose stays. And then at the bottom here, you have, of course, the record and stop button. So this is where you start recording and stop recording. Okay, and then like I said, you can switch between the different cameras using that button. And then here it just goes to the gallery. Now this one has its own separate gallery, separate from the main photos app where your main camera stores its videos and photos. This one has its own gallery, and from here you can select videos, you can play them, you can mute and unmute, you can delete, you can share right from here, and also you can transfer that media to the Final Cut Pro on iPad app and edit them from your iPad. But we'll talk about that later in a long extensive video. Let's go back to the camera app. Now in the camera app, of course, because this is a pro camera, you have some pro settings or toggles. You can tap on the plus and this allows you to zoom in or out. So if you have a subject here, you can zoom in like that, and it's a very smooth zoom in and a smooth zoom out, which is kind of cinematic. As you can see, looks really good. Now you can also tap on it again to exit out of that particular option, and then if you tap on this arrow, that exposes some more options. So for instance, we have white balance. By default, white balance is on automatic, but once you start moving the slider, it becomes manual. So from here, you can actually adjust the white balance to whatever you want. If you want to set it back to auto, just tap on this and then choose automatic, and it's gonna go back to automatic. Now, if you want to get out of the white balance slider, just tap on that icon again, and then you have exposure. So by default, this is what exposure looks like. And as soon as you start sliding, and it allows you to change exposure manually. So as you can see, light and dark. If you want to put it back to auto, just tap on that, and it's going to go back to auto, and you can tap on that again. So when it's auto, it's basically white. Okay. Next, you have autofocus. So you can choose whether to focus. So if you want manual focus, you can just use this to focus and change the focus of your camera manually. If you want it back to auto, just tap on it and it goes back to auto, and then tap here to get out of there. And then here you can change the orientation of your camera, whether you want it locked to the left, to the right, or in portrait. It's all up to you. Choose whatever you want and then tap on that to lock that. Okay. Now lastly, let's go to settings. So we have the settings icon in the top right corner. If you tap on that, then you have preferences, tools, and audio. So under preferences, you can actually change the codec. These are some of the settings that were up here as shortcuts. So we have codec, we have the format and frame rate. You can choose those from there. And then you have the color and dynamic range, HDR. You can also enable and disable stabilization from here. Okay, so if you want a bit more stabilization in your footage, you can enable that. And also you can choose to enable mirror front camera and disable it from here. Now, if you go to this other tab called tools, you can actually go ahead and enable things like the grid overlay, which helps you frame your videos better. You can see the grid lines are now there. And then you also have, if I can go back to tools, you also have the aspect ratio guide. You can choose between square, 4:3, whatever you want. Okay. And then you have overexposure indicator. Now, if you turn this on, then the viewfinder will let you know when you've overexposed certain areas. So you can see, for instance, this is overexposed. It lets you know when you turn that on. But of course, you can enable or disable that feature at will. And then you have focus picking, which shows you basically where the focus has picked in your video. You can see these little green outlines that shows you your focus picking. And then let's go back to settings, and this time let me just turn that off. Let's go to audio. Now here, this is basically allowing you to choose the source of your audio. So basically which microphone you're using. You could use the built-in iPhone microphone, or if you have one connected via the USB-C port or via Bluetooth, then you can go ahead and choose the microphone or the exact microphone you want to use for your video. So that is basically the new camera app. It's called Final Cut Camera on your iPhone, and that's basically the features. That's how to use it. Okay, that's the icon, and I'll be making more subsequent videos and explaining the features at length in videos that are coming up, but that is basically how that camera works. Thanks for watching. Comments and questions down below, and good luck.